Alright guys, Touch Rugby back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday so far, and today I want to talk about this Scump fine situation and really fines with the league in general. We've seen other players like Octane and such, Zero, Slasher. We'll talk about these in a few minutes time here, talking about the fine situation in the CDL right now. If you say something against the game, or if you say something against, well, the competitive integrity of the title, looks like you might be getting a fine from Activision Blizzard. Is this something which should be upheld in future seasons? Is this something which reduces from players' freedom of speech? Well, of course, to some degree, but maybe you pay the cost for that, I suppose. But also there's the other argument that says players constantly complaining on Twitter does not exactly help the scene grow, right? So intrigued to hear your thoughts on this kind of stuff down in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, I wanted to run through the winners of the Draft Royale last weekend. So the Random Hoopster, HMC 022, Goran S, I Want the Flex, Sneaky Loki 113, Aurora, 6 Official, and an Exis Zar. All the top 3 teams had the same, well, overall team. That team was indeed Wuskin, Awakening, Kleenex, Attach, and Shotsty. Nasty team. I had 2 of these 5. You know, my team kind of fell short. Like Slasher and the OpTic guys got smoked. I really shouldn't have chosen Zero because London had a gauntlet. So yeah, congratulations. These guys will be doing it all again in a couple of weekends time for the New York home series when that all does kick off, but plenty to talk about in between. So this is what we wanted to get into. First of all, Scump confirming that we talked about this whole fine situation. He said not too long ago he doesn't want to get fined again when being prompted, you know, is Modern Warfare the worst CoD, competitive CoD ever? And Scump said to Dr. Disrespect, look, I don't want to get fined again. People had talked about exactly why he got fined the first time. A lot of people were thinking it was to do with this video that the Huntsman made a while ago, talking about tier listing all Call of Duties, and what Huntsman and Scump had to say in that one. I'll share the clip on screen.
So, for those who don't know, you got fined. I guess nobody knew what you got. Yesterday, during the Huntsman show...
I mean, people that, like, know. Like, people that... When I said that I got fined, people were like linking me the clip of why I got fined. Like people know why I got fined.
Yeah, but
if you do a little bit of research,
we will spare you. It is because of the Huntsman show that we did here at the Hex Quarters on the tiered list.
So last and certainly
trash, right in the trash.
This?
Oh, if Warzone didn't come out in this game, one of the worst CODs ever made.
Really?
Warzone saved this game so unbelievably hard.
Are you kidding? Damn. I thought that S&D, and I only played S&D.
Have you played competitive on this game?
No, I only play S&D.
Is it the maps
and then after
what?
It's counterintuitive. Like
Spawns,
everything that
maps.
you've known, it's counterintuitive. It's a squad-based spawn system, so if you sneak through, you spawn on your teammate. It's the worst Call of Duty ever made. It might be the worst competitive COD ever. No bullshit.
Really?
So bad. You don't have dead silence. Like, the squad spawns, the maps are horrible. Warzone saved this game.
No,
without
really
Warzone,
is there one like good map like
No.
like that you
Zero.
look forward
Zero
to
good
playing?
maps.
No.
Gunrunner?
Zero good maps.
I look forward.
Yeah, and I spoke honestly, and I mean, I'm not allowed to do that.
You're not. Do you feel like you're not allowed to speak honestly about the game?
Obviously, I got fined for it.
Was there any malicious intent behind what you were saying?
No.
Was it constructive criticism?
No.
It was just you having an opinion about something.
Yes, it was me speaking my mind about the current state and current... I mean, I'm going to get my ass fined again.
I'll cover it. Don't worry.
Well, I was just speaking my mind on the current state of the game, A, and the current state of development support, or developer support, that we are not getting, you know? I mean...
So, of course, this was from the most recent Eavesdrop podcast that I'll leave linked down for you guys below. And, you know, we see some of the outcomes of this because this tweet from Clayster came out of the weekend talking about exactly how the spawns work in this game. Well, Zero replied to it with this tweet right here. We are playing the worst Call of Duty to ever come out. This is all overlooked by the fact Warzone came out, which, of course, as you will recognize, is a very similar sentiment to what Scump said in that clip I just showed you. So then Scump replies to this with a nice knowing it, I'll let you know how it goes. And, of course, Trey has since deleted this tweet, probably because, of course, this, well, ticks all the boxes for a tweet that you can get fined for, I suppose. And Octane talking about it as well. So in this tweet, Chrono CDL Intel does then say, who do you think has racked up the most fines so far this year? The way Scump says this kind of implies he's only been fined like once, maybe twice, I don't know, earlier in the season, but he doesn't say that it's like a consistent thing. Octane then replies, kind of implied that he's been fined a fair bit. So before I wanted to go into some the other tweets that pros have been tweeting about, just wanted to address, like, is this a good thing for the CDL? Because I see mixed opinions in the comment section about, you know, I wish, like, the pros didn't always speak up so prominently against the game, and it's kind of frustrating to see all of their frustrations on Twitter, which I do agree with to some degree. I think there's a fine balance here though, because first of all, I respect the players talking about issues like this. If the game has like issues with competitive integrity, and it's something which the communication between Activision and the developers should be much better to cater for the CDL, like millions of dollars on the line here, definitely you need to be playing a game that has good competitive integrity. So I do always respect the pros for speaking up about this, but to the same token, if you're a new individual getting into the scene and you see constantly players just whining about the game on Twitter, and I'm not saying the whines are unjustified, like certainly they are, at least in large parts, but if you're seeing that from a new player perspective, or at least a new fan's perspective, are you going to look at it and say like, oh, you know, these pros, they're always whining about the game. I personally quite enjoy playing like TDM or whatever, right? If you're a new player coming into the scene, and you might not be particularly enthralled the fact that the players are constantly talking down on the game, and if you're Activision CDL, maybe you also think that that's putting off new users or new potential fans. So I can see both sides of it to some degree. I definitely think pros should be able to speak their minds, and you know, they're obviously not allowed to speak their mind, as Scump says, because if you're going to get fined for things when you do speak your mind, then obviously that's well, it's not necessarily censoring you, because you can still say it, you've just got to pay the cost, right? And effectively it's incentivizing the opposite. The CDL and Activision can't really do too much about it, in the sense that like these guys can still go on podcasts, and if they happen to say something, like what are you going to do? You're just going to ban them from the CDL? Like obviously you can't just prevent them going on and doing any sort of media work just in case they say something bad. They've got the fines in place for that. Is it really disincentivizing people though? Or is there going to be like a 3-strike rule type of thing, where the first time it's $100, second time it's like 500, like the third time it's 2k or whatever? I don't know how it works, but you know, we can see with Zero deleting his tweet that obviously does have some effect on the scene. From our perspective, it doesn't really matter too much, but, you know, I do wish that the pros were able to speak their minds more often, especially if the game's in a pretty bad state right now. Then again, like, what does it really do? Clearly, Infinity Wards aren't really taking any steps to resolve a lot of these issues regardless, and it seems like the, the communication channels between Activision and Infinity Wards to make some of these changes to the spawns and some of the issues with the game, and potentially different Hertz servers having different spawns, all of these different issues don't really seem to be getting addressed regardless of what the pros end up saying, so they kind of resort to just saying, like, this is the worst COD ever, there's nothing we're ever going to be able to do about it, and the CDL seems to be making fines for that as well. So I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this really down in the comment section below. Is this something which the CDL should uphold in future seasons? Maybe next year. The game's great, right? And we don't have any of these complaints, so pros don't feel the need to tweet any of this kind of stuff out on the social media landscape. But yeah, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Really, I can, partly for the CDL, it's probably a big money maker for them right now, given that, okay, maybe they the viewership this year isn't so great. We've had issues with the whole the pandemic situation, so we can't do anything online. We don't get those ticket sales that the CDL gets a percentage of, so it's not exactly the same. This is probably a fairly big money maker for them, so I can't imagine it's going anywhere anytime soon. However, you do look at some other esports, the likes of Counter-Strike, for example. Valve are not going to punish players for saying what they want. If they want to talk about the weapon balance and when the Krieg was like overpowered and the Org and all this kind of meta stuff, and they say there's issues with the game, Valve, they might not listen to the best of their ability, but they definitely don't fine players for speaking about issues within the game, whereas the CDL seems to be doing that. Seems like there's pros and cons to me, but I'm never a big fan of not allowing players to speak their mind, especially when it's probably positive for the game as a whole if they were able to, at least if Infinity Ward and Activision had the proper channels to make the changes necessary. So let's look at some other tweets here before we finish the video then. Saint says, hear me out, let's just fast forward to champs next year more like. So this tweet from Zero, is this on the borderline? Is this allowed? Is this not? I wonder exactly what the regulations say. Counting down the days, says Zero, and this is when Slasher and Temp talked about all the issues. Like Dylan says, I can't wait, bro. This is mind-blowing, big facts. All the pros talking about how they're not in love with the game right now. So where is the line that you cross to the point where it's now no longer allowed, right? That's I suppose is a decent question. And then I've got this from Slasher, and I thought this was kind of interesting. Benson tweeted out when OG fell out of the most recent Paris Home series. No idea what the solution is. Change is indeed the key. Pac-Man, of course, their former coach. Slasher then says, I wish I could speak my mind. Whether this is in regard to his contract with OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, and whether he's not allowed to go and talk about situations with the roster, because I think Pac-Man and Nameless are inviting him on the podcast, and he said, look, I just can't do it right now, I wish I could, or whether this is to do with the CDL as a whole, and whether he's saying that, look, I wish I could speak my mind about the state of the game right now and the issues that it's in, but I just can't do it, or the CDL will fine me through the roof. Maybe that's what he's saying as well. And then we see these other couple of tweets from Crimsix and Octane, right? Like, we reflipped. Did they get through into half flip? Like, where's Treyarch? This kind of stuff from Octane and Crimsix. Did they go back here? So, you know, I thought this was kind of entertaining. And then you've got this as well from Octane when they, well, they had a pretty tough weekend a couple of weekends ago. We wait 45 minutes, add that to the list of things for this year. GG's, of course, literally laughable at the CDL standard, laughable at the level of professionalism, event after event. So I believe these tweets did since get deleted. So he tweets this out and then the CDL are like, probably this isn't a good look for the league. And yeah, I do understand that if you're trying to get new fans involved and it seems like the pros think the league is unprofessional and is a laughing stock, that's not exactly going to want people to stay around and be involved in the league. Then again, I feel like what really makes sports and what makes sports interesting is the storylines and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, like, does this necessarily put new people off, or does it say that, look, well, Octane's talking about issues with the professionalism, like maybe I'll tune into the next event, are the CDL going to do something? Like, I don't know really which way it works to some degree. So I do think there's a few different ways to look at this, and maybe Activision aren't always handling this in the best possible way. Intrigued to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.